Over the years, the martial arts world has produced warriors who dedicated their lives to training and real combat, but it has also produced something very different: Bullshido masters. From military frauds to fighters who claim to possess non-existent supernatural powers, these are the biggest martial arts frauds in history. Number 1. George Dillman. He began promoting a technique known as the no-touch knockout, claiming that he could knock out any opponent without making physical contact, simply by channeling his chi energy. His demonstrations were impressive to those who wanted to believe. His own students would collapse to the floor, convulse, and appear to lose consciousness without ever being touched. The problem, as with everything in this world, is that reality does not negotiate with chi. National Geographic decided to test his claims on camera. The result was broadcast to the entire world. When Dillman attempted to use his no-touch knockout on a skeptic who was not one of his students, absolutely nothing happened. The man simply stared at him. No collapse, no convulsions, no mystical energy, nothing. The explanation Dillman offered on camera became one of the most quoted lines in the history of Bullshido. He claimed that the skeptic's tongue was positioned in a way that canceled out his chi energy.
Or maybe it was just staying there, seeing what would happen.
The skeptic was a totally non-believer. Plus, I don't know if I should say that on film, but if the guy had his tongue in the wrong position of the mouth...
The tongue was in the wrong position. What Dillman never wanted to acknowledge, and what virtually any psychologist can explain with ease, is that his demonstrations worked entirely through psychological suggestion. His own students, conditioned by years of training under his authority, unconsciously responded to the expectations of their teacher. A skeptic without that conditioning simply did not fall, because there was nothing real causing him to fall. Number 2. Jay Queiroz. And now we arrive at number 2, perhaps the most disturbing case on this list, because it unfolded in the most sacred place for any martial artist, his own dojo, in front of his own students. Jay owned a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy. He presented himself as a black belt and built an entire school around that claim. Students trusted him, paid tuition, and trained under his authority. The problem? He wasn't a black belt. He wasn't what he claimed to be. Instructor Mike Palladino, who was familiar with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, decided to go there in person. He didn't send a message. He didn't make a phone call. He didn't post on social media. He walked directly into the academy, during class, and in front of every student, to confront Queiroz and find out the truth for himself. What followed became one of the most uncomfortable scenes ever captured on video inside a martial arts school. Palladino demonstrated, in front of everyone present, that Queiroz did not possess the technical knowledge expected of a legitimate black belt. That he struggled with basic concepts. That he lacked the command of fundamental techniques expected at that level. The camera showed everything. Every hesitation, every mistake, every gap in knowledge became visible to the very students who had trusted him as their instructor.
I'm telling you, bro, get your money. Look, I've been training my whole life, bro. I'm just trying to help you. I'm trying to help everyone, bro. You're not a black belt.
Okay, but you stay for me. I know black belt, but...
Where's your certificate? Where's your black belt certificate? Oh, you don't have one. You don't have one. Guess what? You need a black belt certificate.
In martial arts, losing a fight is one thing. Even champions lose. Being exposed as someone who never earned the rank you claim to hold is something entirely different. Because belts are more than pieces of fabric. They represent years of sacrifice, training, competition, and trust. When someone falsely claims that rank, they are not simply exaggerating their skills. They are borrowing credibility that belongs to someone else. And that is what makes the Jay case so unforgettable. It wasn't uncovered by journalists. It wasn't revealed through a lengthy investigation. It collapsed the moment someone with real knowledge walked through the front door and asked a few simple questions.
Steven Seagal is, I don't know why he puts that upon himself, that he has to try to legitimize himself as a fighter. It's ridiculous.
Number 3, Steven Seagal. We've reached number 3, and this is where the scale changes completely, because Steven Seagal is not simply a martial arts fraud. He is practically an institution of deception, a man who spent decades building layer upon layer of questionable claims with a consistency that, if applied to something honest, would be impressive. Seagal publicly claimed to have trained with Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido. The problem? Ueshiba died in 1969. when Seagal was only 17 years old and still living in the United States. For the story to be true, he would have had to be living alone in Japan as a teenager. He also claimed to have worked for the CIA and trained intelligence operatives. His ex-wife was blunt about that assertion. He was never in the CIA. He claimed to have confronted the Yakuza with assistance from the American Mafia. No evidence.
How good is Seagal? He's a wannabe that will never be.
But the incident that truly defines Seagal's reputation within the martial arts community allegedly took place on the set of Out for Justice in 1991. Seagal reportedly told members of the production crew that, thanks to his Aikido training, he was immune to chokeholds that nobody could render him unconscious with a neck restraint. Gene LaBelle, a legendary American judoka and stunt coordinator working on the film, overheard the claim, and he invited Seagal to prove it. According to multiple accounts from people who were reportedly present, LaBelle secured a chokehold and Seagal lost consciousness. What allegedly happened next became one of the most repeated stories in martial arts circles worldwide. He supposedly soiled himself. Seagal has denied the story entirely and referred to LaBelle as a pathological liar. LaBelle, for his part, never explicitly confirmed or denied the tale, taking the full truth of the incident with him when he passed away in 2022. Yet dozens of witnesses have been cited over the years, and nearly every version of the story points in the same direction. What makes the Seagal case so revealing is not any single claim, it's the pattern. Every time reality challenges the narrative, another layer of personal mythology is added. He is a man who appears to have spent decades believing his own legend, which makes him simultaneously more fascinating, more dangerous, and ultimately more tragic than the average martial arts imposter. Number 4. Ryukarin the Ki Master. If Frank Dux's story was an epic lie of cinematic proportions, Ryukarin's case was something entirely different. The most thoroughly documented and publicly broadcast humiliation in martial arts history. Ryukarin was a Japanese martial arts instructor who claimed to possess the power of Kiai, a technique based on projecting energy through sound and intention, capable of stopping an opponent without any physical contact. His demonstrations were spectacular, students collapsing, stumbling backward, and freezing in place at the sound of his gestures and shouts. Completely confident in his abilities, he made the decision that would immortalize him for all the wrong reasons. He offered $5,000 to anyone who could defeat him. An MMA fighter accepted the challenge. What happened in the ring less than a minute later is painful to watch. Ryukarin attempted to project his energy. The MMA fighter simply walked forward and started punching him. No shout stopped anything. No mystical force blocked a single strike. The elderly master, who genuinely believed he possessed supernatural powers, received a beating in front of his own students and the cameras recording the entire event. What makes this case especially fascinating is not the physical defeat, but what it reveals about human psychology. Ryukarin was not a calculated con artist like Dux, or a self-mythologizing figure like Seagal. He was a man who had spent decades inside a closed system where nobody challenged him, where every student responded exactly as he expected. The psychological suggestion behind his demonstrations was so powerful that he eventually came to believe it was real himself. That video generated millions of views and remains, years later, the definitive argument against martial arts based on unverified mystical energy. Number 5. Frank Dux. If you've seen Bloodsport, you know his name. Jean-Claude Van Damme immortalized him on the big screen as an unbeatable warrior who conquered the Kumite, a secret and illegal martial arts tournament. An epic story that was supposedly true. The problem is that almost none of it is verifiable. Every time evidence contradicted his claims, he rarely retreated, he attacked, and the response always followed the same pattern. If there is no proof something happened, it's because the proof was destroyed or classified. If someone debunks me, that person has a hidden motive. Author Eric Lichtenfeld described Dux's method with surgical precision. When his claims are challenged, Dux exploits the lack of evidence in his favor and transforms it into evidence of even larger conspiracies. It is a perfectly sealed system. Every piece of evidence against him becomes evidence of the conspiracy supposedly targeting him. Dux's defense is a classic example of what psychologists sometimes call argumentative insulation. By claiming that the government erased the records, he creates a story that becomes impossible to falsify in his own framework, because every absence of evidence becomes proof that the secret is real. A man who claims to be the deadliest warrior on Earth should be able to prove it, not in a secret tournament, not in a classified operation, but in a room, in front of a camera, against a real opponent. And Frank Dux had opportunities to do exactly that. But the outcome was always the same. In multiple documented television appearances and public events throughout the 80s and 90s, Dux demonstrated technique, knowledge of forms, reasonable speed for a man his age, decent coordination. But what he never demonstrated was the ability to actually fight. Legitimate martial artists invited him to compete under controlled and verifiable conditions. Dux always had a reason not to show up. An injury, a scheduling conflict, or the classic explanation that his training was too deadly to safely demonstrate. It's the exact same pattern seen with Steven Seagal and Ashita Kim. It's the trademark excuse of the martial artist who claims to be so dangerous that proving it would supposedly kill someone. The convenience of that excuse is almost perfect. And that's exactly what makes it so suspicious. These 5 cases all share a common denominator: an ego without limits eventually colliding with reality. Some built empires on their false claims. Others ended up publicly humiliated on camera. But all of them left behind a lesson that the martial arts world should never forget. Authenticity is not something you declare, it's something you demonstrate. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, we have another one waiting for you right here.